Welcome back, everyone, to the Chip Lunch Podcast. It's exciting to be back with Braden. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Nice fluffy jacket today.
Oh, thank you. I'm very warm.
Excellent. And I would say probably one of our brightest guests. I was going to say, because we were talking about, welcome Christine to the podcast.
Thank you.
We were talking about you could have worn your rainbow dress.
I know.
I was saving that comment for I thought you were going to wear something really bright and colourful.
I know. I did and I was just saying before that I actually was wearing my Catacorn dress, which has got rainbows on it and catacorns. Yes.
Catacorn.
Yes, but I did get changed for something a little bit more age appropriate, which is actually really boring. That's just code for boring.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't saying that. If people don't know what a catacorn is, can you explain it?
Yes, I can.
Which part is cat and which part is unicorn?
So the unicorn is the horn and the wings.
Oh, it has wings.
It has wings.
Does the unicorn have wings?
Yes,
Yeah,
flies.
But I thought that was a Pegasus then.
You can be a Pegasus and not a unicorn, I think.
Okay.
In mythology.
Okay, but a unicorn can have wings.
Yeah, I think a unicorn can also not have wings.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's what
I'm no expert on unicorns and Pegasuses. Anyway.
Ek, if you want to bring up what a unicorn is on Wikipedia.
You always do that, Dick.
I like keeping him
Giving
on
him a
toes.
challenge.
Yeah. The thing is, though, his editing is unreal.
Yeah.
I don't know, some people only listen to the audio podcast, but if you want to check it out on YouTube.
Oh, that's how I've consumed Chip Lunch.
Interesting. Because he does some really fun editing. Remember that one where you started talking about me and then I just went on my phone and he just had me playing a game? That was awesome.
Playing some Flappy Bird.
Sorry.
Love it.
Yeah, it was Flappy Bird. I think that's what it was. Christine, welcome to the podcast.
Thank
as we
you.
said. Thank you for coming on. You've been telling me that you've been a little bit worried about the podcast, but there is no need to be because
I feel very uncomfortable now.
Uncomfortable or comfortable?
I mean both, right? I mean, this is stressful, but
Doesn't need to be though.
No, that's right. I'll get into it.
We hopefully will make you feel comfortable and you can slay the podcast.
I will.
I
mean, I know I will. As long as I do better than my daughter, then I'll be happy.
Oh. We're talking about beefs on part twos. This is creating a beef. Well, now we have to have a beef. We have to have a part two with you and Amelia.
Oh my goodness, no. That would not be a good combination.
Yes,
no,
it would.
There would be a lot of editing required.
Yes, I would enjoy that anyway. Christine.
Yes.
We start every podcast with one particular question. Braden, why don't you do the honours?
I've forgotten it now. I haven't been on it.
Oh, come on, Braden. Even I know. Gosh, and I'm a newbie.
Christine, how do you like your hot chips?
Oh, my goodness. So this answer, it's complicated, right? And I know that we've been taking tallies. Well, people have been taking tallies about chicken salt versus plain salt. But, chips are like a whole food group. You can have them in so many different ways. And I really don't limit, my consumption of hot chips in one particular area. But for me, the rules generally are it has to be salted of some description. I do like a chicken salt.
Yes.
But I also like a plain salt, especially if it's good quality, chunky rock salt, the Maldon salt or something like that. Like what Grilled do, their salt is yummy.
Yes. Because that has some herbs in it.
Yes, they do.
Rosemary, yeah.
Yes. But I also always have to have a dip of some description, although I don't really love tomato sauce.
Okay.
I will have
dip. Do you mean
an aioli,
like a beetroot dip? Like hummus?
No, I do
onion?
actually. I do
chips.
dip hot chips in hummus.
Yep.
Yes, garlic sauce or a garlic dip,
garlic.
Yes,
Excellent.
Lebanese sauces always top notch.
Yes.
When I was growing up, my cousins introduced me to McDonald's chips with mild curry sauce back in the 80s, and it was that's the best possible. They brought it back. McDonald's brought it back recently just for a little bit of time, and oh my gosh, it was so exciting. And then they did not continue, which was very sad. But generally with a dip of some description. Yeah, that's how I like it. But I won't eat a chip unless there's a dip or a sauce.
So you won't eat it just on its own?
No.
Huh.
Too dry. Boring. Yeah, no.
It's
not worth it.
Yeah, everything seems to be in a category of exciting or boring for you.
I mean, that's a pretty accurate description of my personality, isn't it?
Title of the episode. Exciting or boring. That's cool. Particular place that you like to get chips? If you had to get chips right now,
Yes.
and you had carte blanche about where you wanted to get it, where would you get it from?
Yeah, well, if I could apparate or like travel really quickly, it would be to when we lived in Nowra, there was a hot chip shop down there, or it was actually a chicken shop owned by friends of ours, and they invested in they called it salt of the sea, but their seasoning was like lemony and salty and herby all together. It was the most delicious seasoning ever, and I've never had them anywhere else. But it was controversial. It definitely divided people down there. People either loved it or they hated it.
Exciting or boring.
Yes, exactly. There was no in between. People were passionate or they hated it. So that would be where I would go. Tooksie's on the main highway.
Tooksie's.
For when we go to Week Away, we should definitely see if they're still using it.
Do a chip lunch.
Yes.
We should do an episode with chips from Tooksie's.
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 Oh, I've seen Tooksie's.
Tooksie's, yeah.
I've seen Tooksie's.
Yeah. They sold that business, so I don't know if they've still got the same owner, because I know that seasoning was much more expensive.
I always see that name Tooksie's and feel like that's not really working. Isn't it either chooks or chickens? Tooksie's always made me think.
Oh, it's an institution.
I'm glad
we would eat there once a week minimum. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, because their chickens were beautiful as well, really good, and the great salads and stuff. Great, easy
Dead
dinner.
They didn't have live chickens in the restaurant, did
not
they?
that I saw. I can't guarantee.
We just plucked this one out the back.
Yikes. Yes.
Would you ever do, I was just thinking one of Braden's favourite is poutine, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever had that before?
What is poutine?
Oh, so she hasn't listened to the episode.
No, I didn't listen to that one.
That was Louise's episode.
Louise's. But you're also a big fan.
Yeah, well, it's just chips, gravy, and cheese, basically.
Oh, cheese! That's a new one.
Yeah,
I do like chips and gravy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a classic.
Yeah, when you were mentioning dippings,
is it melted cheese or just sprinkled cheese?
Well, it's cheese curds, so it's like bits of
you
mozzarella.
lost me.
No,
Curds?
That's like
it's
mozzarella and stuff.
Right. Okay. So I was just imagining like cream, like cottage cheese.
No.
Okay.
No.
That would be ridiculous. But yeah, when you're talking about dip, I was like, I definitely go a gravy on the side.
Yes.
Most often now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I will add. Have you tried the steak Diane sauce at Miranda RSL? Oh my gosh, it's the best ever.
They are good for gluten-free options.
Yes, which is how we found them.
I see.
The their hot chips or their gluten-free chicken schnitzel in their steak Diane sauce. Oh my gosh, so good.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Some hot tips, Tooksie's and Miranda RSL.
That's right. I know. I'm a bit of a connoisseur.
So speaking of boring and exciting, the second question is, how did you become a Christian?
I did put a bit of thought into this question because, we get asked that from time to time as Christians, don't we? Mm-hmm. And the answers sort of evolved, I think, as I've aged and reflected on my life and been aware of people just through connections, people who prayed for me when I was a young child and stuff. So non-Christian home, parents open to me going to church, dropped me off to youth group or, kids club if I wanted to go. I had a friend in primary school who prayed for me and asked me every week to go to Sunday school or church camps or whatever was happening. And I went sometimes and I didn't go other times, but she went to a different high school, but we've reconnected as adults, and it's been amazing just thanking her and explaining to her how thankful I am for her and her family for really praying for me and sticking it out, even though I didn't, they saw no fruit of that ministry in the short term, but I feel like that was really quite pivotal in many ways, because I don't think anyone else really prayed for me or made an effort to introduce me to Christ. Definitely not in my primary school years. But anyway, my parents sent me to Innaburra because they wanted me to go to a private school, which was lovely. I had a great experience in Innaburra. My teachers and all the teachers there were beautiful Christians and worked hard to not only teach us about the Bible and share the gospel, but did a good job at actually getting to know us as human beings. And I was a rat bag of a teenager. My gosh, the poor things. But I really did benefit from their love and their grace with me and introducing me to Christ and journeying with me as I matured. I didn't actually become a Christian until I was in year 12, but I had a solid belief everything in the Bible was true. That was the truth. I knew that. I definitely knew that. And I don't remember when I knew that. I knew that in primary school. I just knew that was what it was. But I also knew that in order to take your faith seriously, you couldn't do certain things as a teenager. You couldn't party and you couldn't do all sorts of things, which at the time was my priority, because I don't know if it would shock you guys, but I actually was a bit of a rat bag and did partake in some crazy partying as a teenager. And
we're coming back to that.
Yeah, I do vividly remember like praying and actually talking to God and saying, yeah, God, like I definitely believe in you and I will take you seriously, but I'm just going to party a bit first. Wow. I'm just going to have some fun. Yeah. And that was really like, I just wanted to have some fun. I just wanted to have fun. That was really my priority in high school. And then I think when I became a Christian, I actually had a friend who did challenge me and kind of put me on the spot. And I was like, okay, it's time. I've had my fun. You know, it wasn't as good as I thought it would be, and I'm ready to take this seriously. And I vividly remember this, sitting down with John Dixon's book, A Hell of a Life, which really clearly sort of stepped me through, you know, what Jesus' life meant for me personally, for sin, and why he needed to die on the cross for the sin of the world, and why that was important for me to pay attention to, and why I couldn't run from him anymore, really, or pretend that there was anything more important than that. So I do remember in my room, like, committing my life to Christ after reading parts of that book and just having a real kind of honest talk to myself. And what I learned since then is actually being a Christian and taking Jesus seriously is actually way more fun. And I've had heaps better times in life and have lived life to the full beyond my expectations, way more than I ever did as a party hard worldly person as a teenager. So, yeah.
Well, first of all, a great way to start the podcast. You're doing really well. Don't need to be worried about it. I wanted to you mentioned a couple of things during that little section. But I wanted to ask you that was towards the end, what was the challenge from a friend? What did they say to you to make you start really thinking about it seriously?
Well, they were a Christian, and you know, I had positioned myself closer to them, knowing that they probably would challenge me on reflection. Okay. And you know, I was curious. Like, I was asking questions about their faith, about church, about what life was like as a Christian, because again, I didn't really have a reference point for life as a Christian. Like, my parents were not Christians. I wasn't really that close with friends, so I'd never really been to church as a teenager necessarily, but I had school experiences of Christianity. I'd seen the Christians at school, but and then they obviously saw that was really important thing that I was investigating and probing, and they just said, well, what are you doing? Like, are you a Christian or you're not? Really, that's essentially what they asked me. And I was just like, I don't know. Like, so then I had to figure that out. And God is good, and I can't remember who gave me that book, but someone did, and I read it, and it's still to this day the most amazing book in terms of just stepping through the importance of what Jesus came to do in the world, and how sin needs to be dealt with.
Is there a part, like a section of that book that you really still sticks in your mind?
No. I have like sections like that of different people's sermons over the years that I'll never forget, but not that book specifically. I think because by year 12 going to Innisborough, I'd had the gospel message, preached and explained probably hundreds of times by that stage. So it all made sense. It was reasonable. I believed it. I knew I believed it. It was just a matter of actually making the decision to take it seriously. Yeah.
I mean, it's actually one of my favourite parts of doing this podcast is seeing how God works through the most random different things, depending on who the person is. Like, I mean, I said in mine that I just knew there was something different, but I couldn't find it. And it was through people loving me through friendship and it's obviously related to the personality that God gives us as well. But then you said that you went to church, but you're like, you went to Christian school, and you're like, the answers were there, but it's like, I'm not ready for the answer right now. But then it's like, here's a book, and then and that was it, and your friend challenging you as well. And it's just really fascinating to see how he's like, well, I just know you so well that I know what I'm going to do here.
Yeah, totally. And it wasn't about truth it wasn't about truth for me. It was really about...
Because you already said that you knew the truth.
I knew the truth. Absolutely, I did. And I knew what I was doing was wrong and that I was actually acting against my own conscience, you know, and a lot of that partying and stuff like that was... I was definitely making a decision to do the opposite of what I believed was what I should be doing. Yeah.
Well, you describe yourself as a ratbag teenager.
Yeah.
And you just said that. What did that mean?
Well, I mean, it's pretty tame, really. But, you know, now that I'm a mother and I have teenage children, so they have asked me questions about my teenage life and Jai too, because he didn't become a Christian. Yeah. Actually, my husband and I, if no one knows that Jai's my husband, but
who's Jai?
He and I became a Christian, I think, around about exactly the same time.
Oh, really?
So we both became Christians in 1998. I can't remember what month specifically either of us became Christians, but he might know specifically for himself.
1998, what a year.
Yeah, it was a good year, that's right. So we've been Christians the same amount of
so
time.
when you were born?
Oh,
No. I was 3.
Oh, Brayden!
I think that would mean
so
that's the year Ethan's born, I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
He's 3 years younger than me.
Yeah.
So why would you think you were so rebellious? Or you felt like you were being rebellious and you needed to be?
I just wanted to have fun. Like, it wasn't even about fitting in. Like, I mean, obviously all teenage girls particularly want that to happen, but I don't know.
But what's fun?
I mean, going crazy, going parties, drinking, going out with your friends, dancing, sneaking into nightclubs, all of that, right?
Yep.
So that was the fun. That was the fun I wanted to do. And, my group of friends at school were, again, pretty tame. Like, yes, there was drinking and there was some marijuana, not that I did not partake in that, but
Bill Clinton.
I know, no. It's just smoke has never been an interesting thing to me. I find it disgusting, but it was pretty safe rebellion. Really, my parents had no idea, and there was all sorts of shenanigans going on about getting away with that back before we all had mobile phones and the internet was everywhere. But that was exciting to me. Like I wanted that kind of crazy kind of party life, but I pretty much did all of my rebellion by about year 11, to be honest. And by then I'd grown up a lot, I think.
But she said you didn't find it was your interpretation of what would be fun.
Yes.
Wasn't actually fun.
No.
What was that, and what led you to that realization?
Well, I think sort of taking God seriously and committing my life to Him and really carving out for myself what that looks like in terms of how do you live out your Christian faith? Like, do you join ministry? Do you all of that sort of living for Christ and seeing, the world as it is, in terms of it's God's creation and we're in a sinful world, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. And actually, focusing on what God has designed us to do, which is to worship Him and glorify Him. Like that's where it's at. That's where the action's at. So definitely learned that. It took a while for me to learn that, really, but definitely Soul Revival helped a lot of that. As soon as I stepped foot in Soul Revival, I felt like I was home. Definitely. It took a while. I was in another church for about 18 months when I first became a Christian, and that was a hard slog in terms of building relationships. And I'm not a particularly hard person to, build friendships with.
It's pretty hard to talk to you.
Yeah.
Like, you're pretty closed off.
I know, right? I'm pretty standoffish. I don't really share about myself or anything. I make friends everywhere I go. I've never had a problem making friends, but that particular church was very difficult to make friends at. And I think God, again, taught me a lot through that process. I think that was the test. How badly do you want this faith thing, Christine? Are you willing to keep coming to church, keep sticking it out, keep working on your holiness and your godliness,
or is it just fun for you, kind of thing?
Is it just another friendship group you want to explore? And definitely by the end of the 18 months, I was like, yes, I need a community. This is not, and I tried hard. I was in a Bible study. I invited people out for coffee. At that particular church, youth group finished in year 11 or whatever. I think year 11, so that the year 12s could have whatever their time with our youth group. So I kind of joined about that time because I was in year 12. Yeah. So they already had all these established relationships and friendships, and there was no open forum for you to go and hang out with church people other than at church. So it was sort of invitation only. You had to be friends with people to get an invitation, and I wasn't. So it was really hard. It was very difficult, and it just never. I worked for 18 months. I worked hard on building friendships, and literally, I was like, okay, I've had enough. Like, I can't do this anymore. I needed particularly Christian girlfriends. Like, I really needed Christian women around me to teach me how to be a Christian woman, because I didn't know how. Like, I was trying to figure it out myself. And I never forget that first night I came to Solly's, and it was like sumo wrestling with pillows wrapped around people, and I was just like, where the hell even am I? Like, what is this? But I'm here for it. Like, I'm totally up for it. It's cool. I'm not going to wrestle anyone, but I am keen to cheer. Wow. Yeah. But like, literally, I was welcomed in a really genuinely warm way by everyone. And it was just like, oh my gosh, I just remember feeling an exhalation, like, oh, finally I found my people. And obviously I'm still here. So
how did you find out about Solly's or get invited? Do you remember?
Well, I know. So that it was around the time you guys, well, before both of your times, but there was a little bit of an exodus. There was a couple of other friends of mine who were at that same church who actually had moved across to Solly's before me. Okay, yeah. And I've, again, vividly remember Brad Ware coming up to me and saying, this, you can't just, church hop, and like, he really bailed me up, and it was good, because people were serious about making a community in your own home church.
Community to your local church.
Yeah, that's right. And I did have then the opportunity to step him through my last 18 months and say to him, what would you do in my situation if this was your experience? And he was like, okay, you're in. You're allowed. You're allowed.
Pass the test.
We'll let you in. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we've actually on this podcast talked a lot about introversion and extroversion. Would I be right in saying that you're an extrovert?
Yeah. Christine? It's an interesting, I don't know if it's as black and white as that. And I think as you get older, as you get older, particularly the more demands that are placed on you as a person when it comes to relationships. So for me, motherhood was definitely, and still is definitely, a huge part of my energy, life and attention. So I definitely was an extrovert before kids, for sure, and still am, but I need heaps more recovery time than I ever did since having children, just purely because that is a 24/7 job. Like,
well, it's like extroversion into extroversion.
Yes.
Whereas if you're just hanging out, and you do end up going home, that's where your introversion time happens.
Yes.
So when you have children, you go, like if you're at work, for example, you're talking to people, and then you end up going home, and it's on. It's on again, isn't it?
It's on. Yep. And it's on 24/7. Like, there's no off. So. Yep. Yeah. So I think, yes, I am naturally an extrovert, but I definitely need more recovery time.
Yeah. And do you get energy from hanging out with people, talking to people? Yeah.
Definitely, particularly good people, for sure.
The only reason good people. I was just going to ask the other question. Does it help you relax? Because this is something I'm trying to work out, is that I think if I'm stressed and then I go and hang out with people, I feel more relaxed afterwards. I don't know if that's the same for you or not.
I think it depends on the people and it depends on the context for me, definitely. Okay. Again, and it depends on my responsibilities. If I'm parenting, then that's not relaxing necessarily. And it sort of depends on how my kids are going in that interaction as well. So I'm sort of got half of my brain thinking about what they're doing, and then half of my brain just engaging with people. So if it's just me, or it's just Jai and I and we're out with people, yes, agree, definitely. But it's just different seasons of life, I think. Yeah.
So you moved to Solly's.
Yes.
Sorrowville, which was the youth community that we had at Gymea Anglican.
Yes, I moved churches straight away. It's pretty much after that night, like literally within 5 minutes, I'm like, I'm home. Like, I definitely felt a homecoming.
How old were you when you did that?
Oh, maybe 19.
Okay.
Yeah, so I became Christian at 17. Yeah, spent 18 months. Got confirmed at that other church, which was amazing. Loved that experience. And then, moved.
Did you know... Oh, sorry.
Okay.
This might skip away from where we are at the moment, but line up terms of chronologically. Like, did you know what you wanted to do after high school?
Yes.
That wasn't going to be the question.
Yeah, good.
We're
You guys
in
have got the same brain.
Hang
Well
on.
done. When it works, it was good. Yeah.
We've got the same hat on.
Yes.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. That might be where
Similar
it is.
glasses too, actually, today.
Yes. I actually copied Braden on that. I should say that. But I knew
He is
that,
a trendsetter.
well, Braden has the full rim and I only have half rim. And I made sure it was that because I knew he had the full rim glasses.
Well, they suit both of you very nicely.
So maybe we just transfer when you wear the hats together.
Yeah. I'll
It's,
take some of your hair.
my hair's great, man. I'm
Yeah,
at
killing it,
36,
bro.
I'm killing it.
Good job, bro. Humble too. Anyway, yeah. So you knew what you
I'm
wanted
just
to do.
leaving all of that alone.
No, please
So
come on.
no, because then no one has to edit me when I say something inappropriate.
So you knew what you wanted to do after high school?
Yeah, that was definitely a pivotal part of my life for sure. And it's so interesting, Joel. I'd not heard your story until I listened to your podcast. And I identified with so much of what you said about being in high school and how you studied and, you know, how you learn even now. So I'm exactly the same as you.
Okay.
So I underperformed academically in all of the way through high school. I mean, kind of just
Underperformed as you think you probably could have done better.
Oh,
but
yeah,
okay,
absolutely. I put no attention or time into my academics because I was there for like a good time, right?
Yeah.
And that was how I approached every class, and I would heckle teachers about their ties being ugly, and like I was just a rat bag, right?
That is
I
so good.
was.
Nice tie, sir.
I know. Does it really match those pants? No, it really doesn't. Someone needs to give you a colour swatch. Like I literally was so rude. I was so rude. I really, and since then I actually, as an adult, have apologised to a number of teachers
good
that
on-
I've
it's-
had connections
good on
with.
you for
Yeah.
trying to wind it back a little bit at least.
Anyway, yeah. So I had a teacher who, again, would often give as much as he got in terms of cheekiness. He was my maths teacher for a number of years. Maths not a strength of mine, and before we had two. What's it called? Work experiences, one in year 10 and 1 year in year 11.
Yep.
And before my year 11 one, I decided randomly that I wanted to be a physiotherapist. And he literally just flatly said to me, "You'll never get the marks for that."
Oh.
And the marks at the time were 96 or something crazy. And I said, "Oh, sir, that's not very encouraging. Like, what am I going to do now? Like, that's all I want to do," like as teenagers do. And he suggested occupational therapy. Never heard of it. I'm surprised he heard of it. And so he convinced me that I might be more suited to that and that those marks were more achievable. So I think at the time that was in mid-80s was the UAI for OT. So I organised to do 2 days at St George Hospital, physio, 2 days OT, and I did 1 day midwifery because I thought I might want to deliver babies, which I do not and did not. But I literally, like, that was a really, that was a God moment because I walked into the physio day one. It was 2 days physio originally, the first 2 days, and I hated it from the moment I arrived. Like, all the patients hated the physios. They would whinge and moan, and like they're acutely unwell. They're in pain. They've just had a surgery, and the physio walks in and makes them go for a walk. Like, none of them wanted to do that. None of them were interested in doing the repetitions of exercises they had to do in the gym. Everyone was bored. Patients were whinging. The physios are constantly trying to motivate them to do it, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is horrific.
Yeah.
And then I did the OT on the Thursday, Friday, and literally, again, as soon as I walked into that department, I was like, oh my gosh, these are my people. Like, I straight away had an affinity to them as human beings, and just their like how they thought and how they explained the profession, because I really had no idea what it was. And I had a great 2 days. Like, I was with maybe 6 different OTs across the 2 days, which was a lot of work for them to organise such a great experience for me. And every single OT I was with was passionate about it. They just sold it and were loving it and genuinely loving it, like really enthusiastic about it. And the patients all loved the OTs. And I went on a home visit, and great to get out of the hospital, and it was much more positive about what they wanted out of their lives, and there was much more buy-in from the patients into the process. So I literally, from that day on, I'm like, right, I have a goal, and I'm going to be an OT, and I'm going to get those marks, and I don't care how much work it's going to take me, and I'm doing it. So my marks literally went straight up. And I had a goal, right? Like I knew in my soul that was what I was meant to do. And at the time, the marks were terrifying, and I wasn't sure I would ever get them. But I buckled down and I made it happen. So
well done.
To the point where Fari actually did get the marks for physiotherapy.
Oh,
Mr. Croft,
really?
Mike Croft, I did.
Well, you got over 96 UAI.
Well, at the time it came down. My year was lower. It was like I think it was 90 to get in.
Right.
But I did exceed that, and
Really? Well done.
and I shocked the staff, the entire staff, I'm sure.
Oh, you must feel good about that.
Yeah.
Well, to the point where
Get some new tyres, guys.
Well, years later,
See, I am right about things.
I know how shocked the staff were, because years later, when Jai got the job at Helensburgh, our very first week as a family at the church, one of the teachers who never even had me, she never taught me, she came up to me on morning tea after the first service, and she's like, Christine Humphreys, I remember you got this, to the point. Like, she remembered my UAI score to the point. I think that was maybe 10 years after I'd graduated.
Really?
Yes. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So I was that kid. They were like, oh, did you hear what Christine Humphreys got in her UAI? Can you believe it?
So something must be wrong with the marks or something.
Seriously, how the hell did she pull that off? But again, similar to what you were saying in your podcast, is that I chose subjects that I was interested in, and I was passionate about learning, and I enjoyed. Yeah. So that made studying much easier.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And even now, like, I can't learn something if I don't want to learn about it, and I will become hyper focused and get very much do a deep dive of research about any particular subject I'm interested in, and become a little mini expert, and I will remember it for whenever, as long as I need to. So it's very similar.
Sorry, I was just remembering where we're up to in your timeline. That's why I was looking a bit blank.
Oh, right. Okay.
But so did you end up going to uni for that?
Yeah,
right.
Straight after. Yeah.
So which uni?
Sydney.
Sydney.
Yeah,
All
of course.
So much bragging.
Of course. I mean,
Sydney, of course.
Of course. I shouldn't have, because they actually offered the worst OT degree.
Oh.
And still do. Like, it's still the...
Oh, wow. Calling out.
It's bad. I know. I actually watched Sandy's Chip Lunch, and she went to Sydney a few years ahead of me. And she explained there's literally, she had 7 subjects, she said. We had 9. 9 subjects that were each 1 or 2 credit points. It was ridiculous.
9 subjects per semester?
Yes, it was ridiculous. It was the worst designed course on the planet. It was craziness.
On the planet.
So it was stupid.
Where's better?
Western Sydney.
Yeah.
Hey.
I know.
Yeah.
Westy.
That's right.
There you
I'm
go.
a Western Sydney alumni.
If you want to do
I
OT,
love that.
there's your recommendation.
Well, I mean, in my experience, I've now been an OT for about 21 years, but all of the graduates that I've worked with have gone to Sydney Uni, plus all the students I've supervised who go to that uni have been the most switched on, the most aware, the most skilled.
Also, Campbelltown campus is way too long. Just putting that out there.
Way too long.
Long what? What do you mean long?
It's from one end to the other.
Oh, okay. Actually
geographically long.
I thought you meant it takes too long to get there.
That's what I thought.
It takes a while to get there.
Well, I thought you meant it the degree goes for too long, too many years.
Sorry. Well, it's just
so many definitions of the word long.
Yep. Physically.
You're taking a long time to say this.
Can you be nice to Joel?
I'm sorry.
I can't believe I'm telling you off. Brayden, you're the nice one.
Oh, meant to be.
That's so funny. Yeah, she used to
I often say, you can tell the ones we record in the afternoon rather than in the morning.
Which is all of them now.
Now, yeah. You don't get nice Brayden or nice Ethan anymore.
Yeah, I remember some of the morning ones I hadn't had a very good sleep, so I was pretty all over the place in the morning ones. That was my question. So OT has been a big part of your life for a very long time. What about being a Christian in OT? How does that influence how you approach your job?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's super easy to be a Christian in OT because half the OTs I know are Christians.
It's like teaching.
I know, right? There's heaps of Christians. And not only are there heaps of Christians that are OTs, there's heaps of ministry wife Christian OTs. Heaps.
Really?
Heaps, weirdly. Yeah. And I think it's because, as a health professional, it's you actually leave uni with a qualification that you can be employed straight away.
Right.
And it's obviously a caring role, a helping profession, and there's jobs everywhere. I find, generally speaking, Christian women and Christian ministry wives are quite practical people who have an understanding that they need to earn money. So I generally find that that's often why they want to go into that profession. So it's been pretty easy. It was easy at uni. I had lovely Christian friends there. Yeah. Not that my focus was campus ministry. It definitely wasn't. That was in my early days of like deep diving into soul revival ministry and, 5 nights a week ministry and stuff. But yeah, as an OT, as a working OT, I have always worked in teams with other Christians, which has been a huge blessing. But also personally, now that I work for myself and have for 6 years, in many ways, what I do now that I work certainly with kids and families is an extension of ministry. Like I really feel blessed that I can bring a level of care and commitment to helping people be supported in their lives with whatever they're going through. And most of my families that I work with are struggling in one way or another, some more than others, and it's a real privilege to actually journey with them and partner with them and meet them where they're at. So
just give us some love and stuff.
Yeah, and I do. I really genuinely love my kiddies that I work with and the families and the parents and siblings, and we have a really connected relationship, which goes beyond earning money. It's such a privilege, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah,
and I think my Christian values essentially they do align with my profession, and it's really easy. It's always been easy for me. I've always understood OT. I've always felt comfortable and confident in it, and I think a lot of that is about how Christ has changed me to be more like Him, and just on a basic level of what are the values of the profession, what are the values of being a Christian, they're very similar.
It's really nice.
Yeah, it is really nice.
It's lovely that you enjoy your job so much as well, which will obviously help you to have that Christian influence even more anyway.
Yeah,
so, it's really cool.
I hope so. And I think at the end of the day, because I have had lovely Christian conversations about Christ with clients. I'm not legally allowed to, essentially, but we know each other. Like we have an ongoing partnership over many years. So I do often pray for my clients and my families, and I pray that they would see that the reason I do the work that I do in the way that I do it is because I'm trying to honour Christ. Like that's the goal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, let's move on from some career stuff now. But what about when you were going to youth? Well, it was Soli, so it's got a youth community, young adults community. Did you get involved in leadership pretty quickly, or was it a little bit of, is this Christine girl? She's just crazy.
Yes, yeah. I mean, there was quite a big time of that. Yes, I didn't do formal leadership in terms of youth leading until Jai and I started dating. So that was probably 2 years, year and a half, maybe, of just being at Soli's. I was, on the wash-up roster and took money at the door. Like I did cafe, those sorts of things, which I really enjoyed. And I was attending a Bible study.
Oh gosh, I was thinking of Soli's house, but that's at the factory, isn't it?
Yeah, the factory.
And that's what we had someone at the door just like taking money and stuff like that too. Yep. Sorry. Keep going.
I know, flashback, hey? Yep. I had a flashback listening to your podcast when you talked about Karen's car being called the Wobbegong. I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't heard that in 20 years.
I don't remember
I laughed out loud.
That was the stupidest car.
Oh my gosh, it was the best. I was like, oh, that was funny.
It was like driving a giant sea creature.
I know,
around.
I remember. And I remember just people so fondly calling it the Wobbegong and just that being funny. Just that word is funny.
When did I mention it in my podcast?
With Sandy.
Oh, it's Sandy.
Yeah.
It had the number plate was WOB.
Okay.
And then Karen just called it, and her family called it the Wobbegong. It's a giant Falcon station wagon. You could fit 8 people in it. So it had a bench seat at the front with 3 people and 3 in the middle and then 2 in the back.
Oh,
it was great.
Car.
Yeah. It was great.
Yeah. And then it was so old. Like Karen was driving it one day around Bates Drive. Just turned off.
Gave up the ghost.
She didn't know what to do, so she's like, oh, and then just gradually nudged it against the gutter to slow it down. That was like you lose brake pressure when the engine's off, so you don't have brake pressure for a long. You're not able to use the brakes for very long.
Oh, that
time.
was lucky. She was able to avoid an accident. Crikey, the wobbie gone.
Yeah, actually happened to her twice, I think. But, I remember driving the thing, and I feel like it's like in Harry Potter when they talk about like the cars that they've magically made bigger to fit.
Yes.
It's like you feel like you're driving that. Like it's just like so wide and so long. You're like, again, it's a giant. It was blue too, so it's like a giant sea creature wandering around. Anyway, moving on from the wobbegong.
Funny. All these things you forget, you know, about life, and it's nice to be reminded.
So if the leadership thing is tied to you going out with Jai,
shall we talk about
going out with Jai?
Ooh, he's my favourite subject. I'm happy to talk about him. What?
It's just
Why
so
is
lovely.
that funny?
I don't know. I don't know if my wife would say that about me. Joel's my favourite subject.
I know. That's because
I'm not
it's
sure.
Jai.
Yeah. I have heard this story once. You told it a week away, but
I actually
Go
think
ahead.
that week away was your first week away because I was listening to you talking about your first week away.
Yep, 2004.
Yeah. Oh, no. Actually, no. That was our first year of marriage. We stayed in the caravan that year. Jai and I. What?
You just had a caravan on your own, didn't you?
No. So we had lots of married couples and we farmed them out. So Jai, 6'3", Jai was in the caravan berth.
Yeah, that fits.
With me. It was not comfortable.
Yeah.
Anyway, we didn't do that the following year. Anyway.
Yep.
Yes, Jai and I have a beautiful story actually, and I'm really proud of us because by the time I knew him. Sorry, it's tricky to say from beginning to end.
Right.
I had another boyfriend when I first started coming to Solis, and that didn't last very long, and then was very happy to be single and connect with girls and just be a girl and learn how to be a Christian woman, essentially. I was not interested in boys for that period of time, which is very unlike me. And Jai was actually the it boy at Soul Revival Church, Soul Revival
pretty
at the
cool
time.
guy, wasn't he? Yeah.
So a number of girls in my Bible study were, crushing on Jai, and I was like, yeah, whatever. Like I said hello to him and goodbye to him, but I'd never even had a conversation with him because I just avoided talking to boys in that time of my life. And so they would tell me about him, and I'd be like, oh yeah, whatever, great, go for him. But then randomly, it was at my friend's 21st. And we just happened to be sitting next to each other. He'd come to youth on the Friday night. He came afterwards, and we just had a conversation, like literally just talked. And it was like not necessarily electric, but it was like lovely, comfortable, easy, and just flowed. And we just enjoyed each other's company. And it was a shock to me, actually. Like I was like, oh my gosh, that was a really lovely conversation. And then randomly, God would have it. The following week was another friend's 21st, of which Jai came to after youth, Friday night, same thing. And again, I didn't specifically go and find him or sit next to him deliberately. I should ask him. I don't know if he tried to find me, but anyway, we happened to be sitting next to each other again and just had another easy, lovely, long, just chat. Easy peasy, nothing big. I don't even remember what we talked about, but we just connected and got along really well. And it was at the end of that night I was like, maybe there is something there about Jai. Yeah. Maybe they're all been telling the truth.
This will help me one up the Bible study, girls.
So anyway, we then had like a courtship actually, which was really lovely. We both had breakups with people that we didn't want to have another breakup again. Like I was not interested in just dating anyone.
You wanted to date for long term.
Yeah, I was just like the next person I'm going to date is going to be my husband. Like I didn't want to engage in any kind of casual dating, which is that's a lot to expect of a new connection, right? Like, yeah. So, and we weren't friends. Like I knew him. I was at Solis with him for years, but I wasn't friends with him because neither of us had approached each other. You know what I mean? Like we might have said something as he brought something into the kitchen. I was doing the washing up or whatever. He thought I was crazy and loud, which I was.
Which is true. Yeah.
Which I am, that is me. So I think our impressions of each other were kind of not negative, but neutral maybe. Anyway, so we just kind of got to know each other. So I think, I can't remember, he invited me to some movies with some friends, and then we had some chats at Soli's, and
Soli's is good for burgeoning relationships.
Yeah, we just got to know each other and decided whether or not this thing was actually a thing, and it was really nice, actually, really, really nice. So that went on for months. We had lots of people, like, as speculation. Ooh, like, are you and Jai going, these kind of conversations? And we were like, no, we weren't. Anyway, eventually I'd had enough, and Jai there was nothing more than this sort of nice chatting and kind of connection. And I ended up ringing him. He was living at the Collins' house, Kate Jones's parents' house at the time. And I vividly remember, this is before mobile phones, so Phil Collins, who's lovely but terrifying.
Great singer.
Terrifying, yeah.
The guy,
picks up the phone.
He's in the gorilla suit, isn't he? The Cadburyad.
Oh, the Cadburyad, yes, that's Phil Collins. Anyway, he picks up the phone. Can I speak to Jai, please? No, sorry, this is terrifying. Anyway, Jai gets on the phone, and I'm like, right, what is happening? Like, do you like me? People are saying we like each other. What's going on?
People are saying.
Can you imagine, Jai?
Yeah.
On the other end of the phone? Literally, like it was silence.
Probably everyone else is listening to it as well. Like, what's he going to say? Who's this girl calling?
Yeah, totally. So he was just like, but like, we don't really know each other that well. Like, and I'm like, good. Yeah, I like you too. So we should get to know each other more. So we went on a few like casual dates, and then a week away was when we made it official. Definitely. I could have married him the following week. I knew. I did. Because we did a lot. Like in those casual dates that we did all of the hard questions. Like we had all of those conversations. How did you become Christian? What's your parents like? What do you want out of life? I never in a million years thought I would be a ministry wife, and I did not want to be one. And that was a big hurdle for me when we were dating and courting, and like we did lots of talk about what life would be like if he was to go into full-time ministry or go be a missionary or whatever. Like he was at Bible college at the time, and I was like, oh my goodness, okay, so this is not the life that I thought I would live. So that took probably a good month longer. If he was just in any job, we probably would have gotten together earlier. But that was a bit of a mental, emotional, spiritual kind of.
Yeah, what's your hang up there for ministry wives? Because you've mentioned it a couple of times.
Yeah. Oh no, it wasn't about him or ministry wives or ministry in and of itself as a profession. It was about me. Like I was like, I am not godly enough to be a ministry wife.
Oh, like an identity thing.
Yeah. Well. It was about a perception of what I needed to be a ministry wife. I didn't feel worthy to be one. I didn't feel like I could be a good partner for a minister. I didn't think that I knew enough about the Bible. It was about me. It was not about him. It was not about ministry itself. It was about me feeling inadequate and like I couldn't do that. It's a lot of expectations on ministry families or ministers themselves. Like
from churches?
Well, because I became Christian at 17, right? So I entered church. I started my learning about church and about ministry and about ministers themselves at that age. So by the time I'm like 20 and I'm, talking to a boy at Bible college, like that was a big step for a fairly new Christian, right? I was a baby Christian essentially. Now at the time I thought I was mature, but now I know how much of a baby Christian I was. But I definitely had a perception of just the biblical imperative and accountability ministers are under of being a professional minister of the gospel, and I didn't know if I was up to the task. And, many days right now still I don't feel I'm up to the task, but I'm here, aren't I? Like I can't take it back.
Can I ask you a question about that? You said the feeling of inadequacy. Is that something that is often a struggle for you?
Yeah. Isn't it for everyone?
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, imposter syndrome's massive, totally. Yeah. There wouldn't be a day that would go by that I don't think I'm terrible at something or anyone on the planet would do better at it than me. Parenting, for example. wifing. I mean, I feel pretty confident professionally, but there definitely are days, many days, where I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to hand this client on because I'm doing a terrible job, and someone else would do better, and I'm disadvantaging this family or this child because I'm their therapist. There's lots and lots of those moments I have, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you think God helps you with that?
Yeah, that's a good question.
When you're feeling inadequate, are you just like going, God help me not feel inadequate? Because I feel like I used to struggle with that a lot more. Not as much as I used to, but it's still a struggle sometimes for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I probably need to pray about it more. That's probably good advice.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't.
No, I think that's helpful. No, I don't. I think it's helpful that you said that. How is God helping me with that? I think circumstances that have come my and our way as a family have helped me understand the value of who God has made me to be, and the kind of skills and talents I bring to the picture or to the party in terms of ministry. Over the years, there's been lots of really encouraging people who've thanked me for my personal ministry and for the person that I am more than my ministry. Like, that's because you can do lots of physical ministry, right? You can do ministry, but when people actually thank you for the person that you are and the essence of you yourself, and how that's made the difference for them, or that's helped encourage them, or whatever, got them through a hard time or whatever, that's really encouraging. That definitely makes me feel like I'm not an imposter, and that, I don't need to.
I think that's revealing, though, because I feel like that's how I feel about you. Like, I think that you're the same.
That's lovely, yeah.
And I think, my next question was going to be like, Jai did go into ministry.
Yes.
It has been for a very long time. But I remember when, obviously, I've said a number of times before, Jai was one of my leaders in youth group. And then we eventually started coming, I think when we were leading Rev, we came to your house to Bible study.
Yeah.
And I remember that Jai wasn't being paid very much.
No.
And you had just had Amelia, I think.
Tobias by that stage.
Maybe even Tobias.
Yeah, it was in Grays Point, Angle Road.
Yeah. Sorry, that's right.
Yeah.
And like, I think you were doing it tough. But it didn't stop you from opening your house every single week. And like making food, you made heaps of food, and you were always having great discussions with everyone. So I think the way I was saying is that, like, even from then I knew that is what you were best at.
Yeah, thank you. That's encouraging.
No, I was just thinking, it's a memory that I have, that's all.
They're some of my happiest memories, I'll have to say, like that Bible study.
Yeah.
We were only there for 3 years.
I think that's when we invented tie and pie.
Yeah, we definitely, we did invent tie and pie, which does endure to this day.
You had Thai food and apple pie.
The end of every term.
So we just called it a tie and pie night.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago, yeah. Tobias is 14.
Well, Amelia, who've had on the podcast, would have night terrors.
Yeah.
When we were there.
Yeah. Nate still has them.
Yeah,
so,
right.
if you come to my house, our Bible study on a Tuesday night has witnessed a few of those.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But I think, again, that's an example of you showing you, like, being a mum. I think that's really important for people who are perhaps going to become parents or parents to see you doing that as well. Like, it's like you talked about being a parent is tough, and it is tough, but to show that life is hard and messy is really important. I learn a lot from you, like going, oh, Jai and Christine are doing it tough, but they're still like looking after us as leaders. And I think speaks to how much you guys cared about us. But that was because you knew that Jesus cared about you. And I think that was really special.
Yeah.
And I suppose leading to my next question is, what's ministry like? Like, you've had to do it for so long now. You didn't want to do it. But now it's been a thing for how long? It'd probably be...
Well, we just celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary. So,
right.
Yeah. So Jai, when we got married, he was working part-time for the church.
Yep. It was 2.5 days or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. Started as Indigenous minister and then, took over Rev.
But he was doing like 5 days of work, pretty much.
Oh, it was ridiculous. Yeah. Don't ask how much Jai works. How is it now?
Oh, just across that time.
Yeah, it's been a journey. God is so good. And I am so thankful for our journey. We've had a rough set of circumstances thrown our way that a lot of them haven't been our choice, or, we've chosen something and then things have happened that were unexpected and really difficult. And God has grown both of us, all of us, our whole family, through that so beautifully. And I am thankful for all of that, those experiences. At the time, I was definitely not thankful for it. or I was like, okay, God, like you just dig in and you get it done, right? You just keep it going. So there was definitely, particularly Nowra, those first few years in Nowra were really rough in terms of, Nate was a toddler and he was very hard, lots of hard work, lots of meltdowns, lots of full-on stuff. And it was us, like we were rebuilding that whole entire ministry, just the Jai and I together, trying to bring community, the concept of community to, a church and a group that hadn't had that model to them before. So that was rough. But I think ministry wifeness, it's really tricky because I thought you might ask me this question, and I did think about how my personal journey with the Lord has evolved. And there's so many different parts of my life that have been through seasons. So before kids, super easy to be Christian, right? Super easy to commit myself to the Lord and get in and do the work and feed myself in terms of like spiritually, read the Bible, listen, have good habits, listen to sermons, attend events, do outreach, all that sort of stuff, easy. And then once kids came along, that looked different. And then each child that we've added to the family, obviously it's looked different again because the responsibilities are huge. And as a ministry wife, Jai is the one, like he has to be at all those events, right? So if the children need someone to be at home, it always has to be me unless he's on leave or, whatever. So, and the other thing about ministry life and parenting and attendance of church or events is that he's working when we're here. So we're all here as a family, but I don't have that. Like other families who attend church have two parents to help look after the children while they're at church. I didn't. I had one. It was me. So it's been a really tricky set of circumstances where I've tried to find how I personally get fed and how I personally contribute to relationships and culture, and also be a parent. So it's been a tricky one.
Yeah, because the story. I mean, just to kind of go back over the story, is that you guys had to leave Gymea Anglican.
Yeah.
Which is a really difficult time.
Yes.
And then, so you first got a job at Helensburgh Anglican Church.
Yep.
And then you moved down to Nowra as well. So
we're at Helensburgh for 3 years.
Yep.
And then, Nowra for 5. And then back to Soul Revival.
I can't believe it was that long.
8 years out. I don't want to call it the wilderness because it definitely wasn't. We had a beautiful experience at both churches, amazing people, and God was good. And Jai and mine ministry, because he definitely could not have done it by himself, not just like me looking after home and him working. We did that ministry together at both churches. Yeah. It was definitely a partnership. And God grew and blessed it. He did. It was hard. It was definitely hard. And it took a lot of energy and connection with us as a team. But God was super good in terms of building, faith in people's hearts and people's connection to each other and people's connection to the Lord, and growing in numbers, growing in giving. We saw some really beautiful fruit, which is a blessing, right? Like a lot of people do hard work and amazing ministry and don't see fruit. So super thankful for that. But
I also remember that when you did come back to Soul Revival, we had a time by night.
We did. Wasn't that fun?
I remember leaving that and saying to Karen, my wife, this is, in inverted brackets or whatever, this is their reward for having to go away for 8 years.
Yeah,
is to have you guys back.
Yeah.
And I know that you guys both tried to implement Soul Revival elements at the churches you were at and found it really difficult to be able to do that, especially when you're saying you're now trying to rebuild the ministry. And you've talked to us about your kind of learnings around that time. Just what's the one key thing you think would stand out from that time? And I'm also thinking in terms of my brother here, Braden, who is slogging away at college at the moment.
I know, Braden. We've been there, done that. Yeah. I studied for 14 years.
We had this conversation on Sunday, and you said 14 exactly the same way.
Literally 14 years.
Yeah.
Wowee.
And worth every second, definitely valuable to learn about the Bible. But I feel you and Beck in terms of the sacrifice that is. It's a big sacrifice in every area of your life to dedicate yourself to that study. So good on you. What's the biggest thing I learnt from being away? Was that the question, Joel?
Well, I'm just thinking about how you first were like, I don't want to be a ministry wife.
Yes. And
then you're talking about like, then you went from, it's really been 4 churches, hasn't it? It's been Gymea.
Yep, 4 churches.
Helensburgh, Nowra, and then back at Soul Revival.
Yep.
I think just, it's more the key learning of like, you've learned to sacrifice yourself so much. But you also said there's lots of fruit. So I'm just kind of thinking about like, is there one thing that you see over those 8 years where you're away from, left after leaving Gymea, that you think that God taught you the most?
Yeah. I think ultimately the biggest lesson is that it's worth it. It's worth it. Like it's worth the effort. It's worth the sacrifice. It's worth the cost. It's worth the blood, sweat and tears. It's our purpose. I definitely feel that very strongly. And always have, but much more when you have to work for it, right? So it's all good and well to be in a church where you've got your mates and you love it and you're committed to the vision and everyone, at the end of the day, any church, like I think any Christian in any church, when they're settled, they've got their friends, they've got their community, they believe in the mission, it's easy and you've got backup. That's one thing to be a Christian in that setting. To be a Christian in a setting where that's all gone and you have to start from scratch, and that's hard. That's really hard. And again, you have to just recommit yourself to the Lord and to the vision and to the purpose of this is worth it. Like all the sacrifices we're making right now, we could be working full time somewhere else and living in a lovely place and, making decisions based on what we want to do. But that was not what we did. And it was worth it. It's definitely worth it. It still is worth it. I mean, just because we're back here doesn't mean we're not sacrificing other things. All of us sacrifice, right, to be a Christian and to live for the Lord. But I think in that period of time, even when it was hard, even when it was, even when the sacrifice felt high, it was still worth it, definitely. I think that's the biggest thing. But also the value of doing and ministry together with a team, like, gosh, that is the gift. That's the gift. That's why we're doing it. Well, we're obviously doing it for the Lord, but doing it with each other and having those relationships, that makes all the difference. Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like that's what you were fighting for at these other places.
Absolutely, we were. Because
you had that experience at Soul Revival and you knew this is a great way to do it. And then it was difficult for you to do that in the other 2 places, but it was still hard.
And we had glimpses of that, and we definitely got to that in Nowra. We left Nowra in a really happy, healthy place, which was, again, a great way to leave. Like the team down there are beautiful, gifted, godly people who were committed to each other and to the Lord, and that was a blessing to leave the church in that state, whereas we found it was quite disconnected and there was all sorts of things happening in that church that were causing that. But, that's what I learned, I think.
I think it's just important to hear because maybe not many people hear that kind of story. So especially from Ministry Wives. Maybe we should just call the podcast Ministry Wives.
Oh my gosh, don't! Because every other ministry wife in the church will be like, Christine, I need to go on and right some wrongs.
Well, it sounds like a reality show, like Housewives of OC. It's Ministry Wives. You've spoken a lot about joy, your favourite topic.
Yes.
But also being a mother.
Yes.
What has God taught you through that? We like to ask people, like parents, to come on and say, what has God taught you through being a mum?
God has taught me that He is in control and that I am not being a mother more than anything else. Definitely. God humbled me from the moment Amelia came into this world, and taught me that I needed to rely on him for every part of everything all the time. And I'm constantly having that battle still. Like, it's not, I don't find that easy to relinquish control. In the big picture I do, but in the daily grind, yes, hard, much harder.
And there's also when they use your children.
Yes.
These are harder.
Well, I mean, I think if anything, when I actually really do meditate on it, the fact that Jesus and God loves my children more than I will ever or could ever is hugely, it's a relief, isn't it? So thank the Lord for that. Can you imagine parenting without God? Like, I can't even.
No.
The thought of that is
I
terrifying.
think about that, I'm like, where would I be without being a Christian now?
I know.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, keep
Yeah,
going.
right?
It's talking about me again.
I know.
Joel's podcast.
Joel revival.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So anyway, God has taught me about being a parent that probably, I mean, for me, the quickest way to improve my godliness and humility and my desire not to rely on my own strength or self has that is like immediately as a parent that I literally could not. It was forced upon me just through the circumstances of that, how challenging it was. Looking after Amelia as a baby who cried all the time and was really hard. So, but as they've grown up and things have changed, I'm still not in control. I can never be in control, and they are themselves, and they will do what they will do, and I can shepherd and hopefully guide them and encourage them, but they will still do what they will do, and I have to give that to God. Like, so it's in many ways, it's definitely enforced godliness, that's for sure, or reliance on God for sure. Yeah.
And just tell us who your children are.
Oh, so Amelia's 17 and Tobias
That's an interesting middle name.
Amelia Elizabeth.
No.
What? What was her middle name?
17.
Oh, Amelia's 17. I missed it. When you have to explain a joke, it doesn't really land, does it?
Did not land.
Amelia is 17, Tobias is 14, and Nate is 11. So, yeah, busy. Amelia's almost an adult. Yeah,
legally an adult.
I know, legally right?
Legally
exactly.
It's
wild.
Let's put it that way.
I know. I mean, it's wild that Ethan's an adult, right? Like, that was when I first came to Soulies, Lou was pregnant with Ethan. So that's how I met Ethan. He was in Lou's tummy.
I don't think I've ever told Ethan this, but I remember meeting Ethan, and I was 13, so he would have been 10, in the car park of
Gymea Anglican.
Gymea Anglican, and I thought, what a friggin' dog.
That's great.
I love him.
And you guys are like
best friends. We're best friends, but I was just like, cool.
And then you learn that only the best people are dorks or crazy or,
Yes, I was just trying to be a cool 13-year-old.
How'd you go with that?
We'll see.
Still working on it.
Still working on it. But yeah, excellent.
Before I ask the last question, Brady, you got any other questions for Christine?
I don't know. I feel like we got to like 2006. Like, it always feels this way where there's so much more.
Yeah, there's so much more.
I know. Part two.
I feel like I've talked a lot about post 2006, definitely. Yeah.
That's so cool.
That's very, very lovely of you, Brayden.
Not currently. I'll write in later if
I've got one more question before I ask the final question. Was it exciting to come back to Soul Revival?
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. Yeah. And look, we came back with eyes wide open. Like, we were not expecting utopia or it was 8 years of our life that we missed out on Soul Revival's journey and people's journey. So we definitely had, I think, realistic expectations of what it would be like, and it has met those expectations but exceeded it. But I mean, this is where we belong. This is our family. It's been interesting. So it's been wonderful is the answer to come back to Soul Revival. But the other answer is that because we're at a different stage of life, my personal ability to connect to the community is not as much as it was before we left. So, because I'm busier and my kids are at a different stage of life, all that sort of stuff. So I would love to spend more time with people hanging out, doing all the crazy stuff. But yeah, it's lovely. Jai gets to do that,
Yeah.
and I'm
your
happy
kids
for him.
do, too.
And the kids do, absolutely, they do.
Yeah.
And they feel like it's home. Like they've always felt like that, because even though we moved away, Amelia was 5 and Tobias was 3. And when we moved, no. That was when we moved to Nowra. When we moved from Gymea, Tobias was just born, like 10-month-old, crawling. I remember at our farewell lunch, he was like stealing everyone's thongs and like walking around with them in his hands while he's crawling. So it's been home to them, because when we've visited week away, or when Jai's had leave, we've always come back up and visited, and so that's been a touchstone for them their whole lives, definitely.
Yeah. I remember it being a really, like, it was obviously, I had one term of Rev with you and Jai running Rev. And I remember, like, it obviously was a very sad thing when you guys had to leave, and it was a bummer. But I also remember, I think it was the first service Jai ran at Helensburgh. I wasn't I probably debatable whether I was a Christian at that point, but I was hanging out with the Springs, and they're like, no, we're going to Helensburgh tonight. Because we got to support Jai.
Yeah.
So it's like you left, but you were never really left.
Yeah, no, we weren't. And that's what family is, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So God is good. When we knew that there was a possibility that the church would be able to put us on or Jai on for a job, it was amazing. Like, I vividly remember that time just thinking, oh wow, Lord, like we always hoped we would come back, but we didn't know if that was going to be in God's will or plan, and so we had to just be okay with that and fully commit in the churches that we were in at the time. And we did. Like, I really do believe we did, but it's always been home. Yeah.
Last question.
Yes.
What do you wish you knew, like that you know now, that you wish you knew when you were a younger Christian?
Yeah, I think I've answered. Oh, maybe younger Christian. I thought you were non-Christian is definitely that the actions
that's
here.
Right. You can use
I
that.
feel like that.
Yeah.
Younger Christian. It's not about me. I think, in those first years of being a Christian, and again, even in just my grappling with the concept of being a ministry wife or whatever, I was thinking it was about me, am I good enough? Can I ever do that? Can I be like this person or this person? It's not about me. It's about God. And when that is the focus, then everything's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really short and sweet. It's really nice.
Yeah.
That's what you would say. You just say to your younger self, everything's okay because it's not about you.
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, nice answer. Well, it's been lovely to have you on the podcast.
Thank
As I said, I
you.
think there was many more things we could delve into, but
Exciting, not boring.
Oh,
well, that's the thing.
Brayden.
That's what I was going to say. Is that
It's a bookend. Look at that.
But I think we were going to call it we will call it exciting or boring. But I think what you've mentioned in a lot of the things is that things that you would perhaps considered boring before are actually some moments that you've really embraced as well. So it is boring to be doing ministry when you're struggling with money and all that kind of stuff, or when you're battling to try and build up ministry teams and your ministry at different churches and stuff. So I think that's the life of a Christian as well, is it's not always exciting.
No.
And it can actually, it's boring. It can be boring. It can be hard.
Yeah.
But I think that's hopefully what people have learnt from you listening to this or watching.
Oh.
That God is with you all the time, and it's not about you, and you're doing it for His glory, whether it's exciting or boring.
Yeah. Yep.
But you are pretty
Agreed.
excitable too.
I know. I do like a little bit of crazy time. Let's be honest. Life's way too short to be boring.
Yeah, I think that's true. Or one of my favourite quotes that I used to have on my email signature is the singer from The Darkness, and he said, "If it's worth doing something, it's worth overdoing."
Oh yes, I like that quote.
Yeah,
I never got
good.
an email from you, so that's the first time I've heard
I'll
it.
send you one right now.
Oh.
Custom signature. Here it comes.
Joel is at hotmail.com.
Oh dear.
Cool. But it's been really lovely to have you on.
Thank you for having me. That wasn't scary at all. So if anyone gets asked by Joel to come on the chip lunch, it wasn't scary.
You did great.
They were nice to me.
Brandon was not nice to me.
Need to take some shots. It is your podcast.
Need to keep you humble, bro. Thank you very much, Christine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Braden. Thank you, everyone listening or watching. And we always finish with a one way.
Yeah, one way.
One way.